Hi everyone, I'm your host Law of the West, and in this episode I'm going to be talking about the Hull A. This vessel, and by extension the entire Hull series, represents a new benchmark when it comes to building ships. And this lineup does a good job at showcasing just how far the artists have come in terms of complexity and the detail that they can put into their designs. They knew that bringing the Hull series to life was going to be a unique challenge. Mainly this is because several innovations in their building process had to be worked out before the ship could take the leap from concept to reality. For instance, one of the things that they had to develop for it was to create elements that could move in on itself, and they've never done anything like that before. This presented a whole new series of obstacles for them to overcome. Like for instance, the ship had to be able to extend out and the spindles had to animate as it took form. And they also had to rework how the physics grid functioned in order to accommodate for all of this. But once they developed this tech for one of the ships in the series, they could then apply it to all of the others. So they decided to start small and work their way up, beginning with the Hull A. In a lot of ways, this ship looks like it's a spacefaring equivalent of a minibus. And all of its components are small. It only has a single turret that's got a pair of twin-size 1 guns for protection. And it may be tiny, but it flies like something that's 4 times its size. But I think that it needs to have all these negative traits in order to offset the huge advantage that it has, which is the amount of cargo that it can carry for being such a small ship. And I'm going to go into this in a little more detail later on, but it seems as things progress, carrying its freight externally may not end up being the negative trait that it was originally thought to be. In fact, it's proven to be a huge bonus after they implemented physicalized cargo. The Hull A's interior is broken down into 3 sections. The first one is the flight deck, which connects the components room and leads to the habitation section. MISC ships are notorious for having either the best or the worst view that you'll find from the flight deck of any ship, and I'm happy to say that the Hull A's bridge fits under that first category. Its front windscreen is bubble-shaped and has a panoramic curve to it. It's completely unobstructed by struts or other forms of obtrusive greebling that seem to plague a lot of the older ships. And it even has an additional mini display that's located above the pilot's head that's kind of like a smaller version of what you'd find in the Reliance series. The dashboard's buttons are laid out for the pilot on a wraparound console that has enough space on it for you to set up a small army of bobbleheads. And another feature that I like is that the entire flight deck is sealed off from the rest of the ship. And this not only protects against depressurization, but also creates a choke point that could act as a secondary layer of defense in case you end up getting boarded. The next section is where most of the components are located so they can be serviced from within the safety of the Hull A's interior. This is also just enough open space for you to be able to get up and move around in while still managing to somehow mask just how small the ship's interior really is. There's a suit locker on the starboard wall for stowing either EVA gear or a suit of armor for those times when you have to venture outside the ship. The pilot isn't going to be able to wear heavy armor when they're flying, so having an option like this that's been built right into the ship is going to be a nice convenience to have. Opposite of the locker is an airlock, which means that you're not going to have to vent the entire room every time that you exit the ship. It's also going to come in handy when you've landed somewhere that has a hazardous environment, which is going to be pretty much almost everywhere. And lastly is the habitation section, which is located in the rear of the ship. This area is mainly dedicated to housing the ship's amenities. Originally, the Hull series was described as sacrificing everything in exchange for being a better cargo hauler. And I mean everything, from its handling all the way down to the interior features that it comes with. But from what I've seen, this ship has nearly everything you could possibly want out of a small cargo hauler. It has a bed, which is going to double as an escape pod. The kitchen area is a lot larger than I expected, mainly because I didn't think it was going to have one in the first place. The countertop has plenty of room for additional appliances like a coffee maker or a food processor, and it also has a mini fridge which is going to slow down the rate of decay for any of the perishables or cooked food items that you've prepared. And of course, what self-respecting kitchen would be complete without its own weapons rack? I'm thinking of installing one in my own kitchen. That way I'd always have a weapon close by so I could give the culinary abominations that I've created a fitting funeral. And that's exactly the same kind of setup that I want in my spaceship. This area also has some additional storage space, as if all the cargo boxes that line the outside of the ship wasn't enough for you. And of course, located at the very end of the ship is a surprisingly large bathroom shower combo. The good news, especially for Drake owners, is that it looks like bathrooms aren't going to be nearly as necessary as people once thought they were going to be. To quote a developer, it's not like you're going to have to be dealing with a constantly rising yellow meter on your HUD, and if you don't take care of it in time, you're going to end up swimming in your own flight suit. Instead, a bathroom is going to be more tied into the hygiene mechanic, which is mainly going to influence your interactions with NPCs. So having a bathroom means you can arrive at a landing zone and be at your freshest the minute you step off the ship. The shower actually seems like it's going to be more useful because you can use it to wash the grime and nastiness that's clinging to your character to help you fight off disease. But the real appeal to this ship is the external cargo storage, and like I said before, a lot of people thought that this design was going to be a hindrance. but it turns out that it's going to end up being a major asset to how it operates. And the reason for that is convenience. It's going to be a lot easier to load and unload boxes from the outside of the hull A with a tractor beam than it would be to carry them into and out of a ship. The hull A carries an impressive 64 SCUs of cargo, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the most cargo that a ship of its size can carry. It also gives you a variety of container sizes that you can use, and the good thing about that is the bigger the box, the larger the items are going to be that you can place inside of them. And it's going to mean making less trips back and forth between the ship and the freight elevators. You could condense your entire shipment down to 4 16 SCU sized boxes, which could go a long way towards min-maxing your deliveries. The option to extend and contract the spindle is unbound by default, but you can set it by going into the options menu and then choosing key bindings, advanced control customization, flight movement, and then scroll down till you find the expand and retract configuration options. You can turn this action into a toggle by assigning the same key to both expand and retract like I have in this example, or you can choose to bind separate keys to each function. You can also manually extend the spine out by using the inner thought system to click on this console button. So who would be interested in getting the Hull A? I consider the Hull A to be a great introductory ship for the cargo hauling career path. You can't beat the price and the options that it offers for the amount of cargo that it can carry. And it's going to be among the fastest haulers for its size when it comes to loading and unloading its goods. But the thing that I really find interesting about it is that, unlike with some of the other introductory freighter ships, this one is going to retain a lot of value even after you start climbing your way up in the world and start moving on to bigger and better vessels. And the reason why I say that is because it could be carried by some of the large ships that, quite frankly, are going to be limited when it comes to the kinds of smaller craft that they're capable of transporting, like for instance the Hercules. It's going to be a tight fit, but the Hercules can definitely carry a Hull A inside of it. And other ships like the 890 Jump can also carry a Hull A, as well as the Odyssey, the Polaris, the Kraken, the Idris, the Privateer, the Merchantman, the Ironclad, and the Liberator. And I'm sure that this list is going to continue to expand as time goes on. So what good is that? Well, the Hull A is going to end up being a great ship to use for transporting supplies from a larger vessel down to a planet. Or you could use it to move goods from one ship to another that are traveling together in a convoy. It can also be used as a supply runner that brings excess freight that you've collected, like mined ore from the surface of a planet, up to a larger ship that's hovering in the atmosphere. It's going to pair up nicely with a salvager like the Vulture and be able to carry all the excess RNC that it produces, and it can be used for all kinds of different applications when it comes to piracy. Another benefit that the Hull A has is that it can land while it's fully loaded with cargo. So far, the Hull A and B are the only two ships in this series that are going to be able to land while their spindles are fully extended out. And yet another reason why someone would want the Hull A over any of the other small cargo haulers is that, in general, MISC is known for making ships that are famous for their durability and fuel efficiency. As a result, the Hull A is going to have a lot more of an extended range when compared to the other small freighters and be a lot more maintenance free. At first, I started out being marginally interested in this little hauler, but now that I've spent some time with it, my attitude's been completely turned around. And I found that being the smallest out of all the other ships in the series is actually its advantage. Its diminutive size means that it's going to have a greatly reduced signature. And if you use that as the foundation that you're working with and then outfit it with stealth gear, you could have one seriously effective supply runner. And as a final note, this ship is a great example of min-maxing at its finest. If that's what you're into, and you can handle sticking to safer areas to do your trading, or don't mind running with a convoy for protection, then this is going to be the ship for you. And for anyone who's interested, before I leave, I'm going to take you on a very short tour of the ship, so make sure to stick around for that. That's going to be it for this video on the Hull A. I've been your host, Law of the West. Thanks for watching, and take care.